Welcome to the Specialty Cropcast on Pomes and Stones. Join us for real conversations with farmers, agribusiness owners, and industry experts as we dive into farming, products, and the business of agriculture, all from the people who know it best.
All right, we're back. Week 2.
Welcome back.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. It was a long week. I had such a great time last weekend. I really wanted to jump back in it quick, but we had to wait to get our special guest here's schedule cleaned up so we could get him in the studio.
Yeah.
So we'll take a quick look around the room for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube. To my right, we have Backward Hat Steve.
Yep.
As usual, and then we have Hoodie Zach in the corner.
Yep.
And we have our guest in studio, Bruce Veliquette. Welcome.
Thank you.
His first
Thank
appearance
you.
on the podcast.
Yep.
Week 2.
It's a pleasure.
So let's talk about.
Let's talk about Bruce.
That's exactly what we're here to do.
Why are we talking about me?
Because you're the guest.
All right.
You're
You're a celebrity, man.
man.
I don't know about that, but
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's see.
We want to know everything.
I see
you know
Talon has
in the
notes
next
on his
hour.
phone, so he's
do have a-
prepared for this.
I do have a couple more. I was thinking about some stuff today at work. I was like, that'd be a good question to ask. But actually, I had a question come in from a listener first, and they said they wanted to know about how you felt about being just a poor mechanic.
Just a poor mechanic. It's great, dude. I love it. No, you lower the expectations every day. Just the mechanic.
Who was that guest? Can you tell us?
Bruce knows who the guest was.
I do not.
Oh, Melissa said that was good. That was a good piece. She said that you opened with that on your first date.
Yes.
We might have to edit that one out. That might be a tough go
I
right
don't know
off the bat.
if I told her I was a poor mechanic or a poor farmer, but
Yeah.
set the stage pretty low.
Well, you can only go up from there.
Sometimes it's best just to get the truth out there right off the bat. So
Right, the low expectations. Which kind of reminds me of a story right off the bat that we can start with. So we run the H2A program on our farm, and the very first summer that they were working,
What's the H2A program?
it is a Department of Labor sponsored, not really sponsored, but they get contracts for Hispanic help or from where you can get anywhere, right? Africa, you
anywhere,
can
yeah.
wherever. And it helps us obtain labor that we can't meet our needs here
Nice.
with locals anymore.
Okay.
So, yes, we roll through the H program, and it's their whole first summer. We meet them all. They don't really know anything about us for the most part. And so for their first experiences with Bruce is he comes out to fix stuff, and he brings pizza on Fridays. So he was either the pizza guy or just the mechanic.
just the mechanic.
Just the mechanics. I don't know if they just didn't. That was just a funny way to start it because they just didn't.
Who's the Coca-Cola guy?
The Coca-Cola guy.
All our guys like Coca-Cola.
Oh, everything's a Coca-Cola too. It doesn't matter if it's a Mountain Dew, could be a Sprite. Everything's a Coke.
Yep.
They all drink Coke and they smoke they just chief it up every chance they get. Just hacks.
Cowboy killers.
Till they get back home.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Cigarettes and Cokes.
One of the bus drivers was saying he was coughing and he's like, "Oh, it's the smoke from the buses." He was a bus driver. He's like, "That's why my voice sounds like this." But it was the 3 packs of smokes he was hitting a day.
Right.
So that was just a quick story to warm up. We're gonna have plenty of those. A lot of harvest stories I have lined up, mostly about Bruce getting mad at people.
That happens.
So,
I would imagine.
how long have you been farming for? Give us a little background on the farm.
I grew up on the farm, so I've been helping. I started helping my dad during harvest season, probably when I was 10 years old.
Doing what? Training on the high low?
Probably a lot of stuff that I was not supposed to be doing. Got yelled at a lot. Got kicked off forklifts. It was the funnest story I remember. My earliest story I remember, because I don't remember much of my childhood, just because I don't know why. Don't remember hardly anything. But 10 years old, driving dump truck with my dad, dumping cherry pits out back during cherry harvest, and got it stuck. And so Dad and I had to go get a different truck. Both were manual transmissions, so Dad's out there trying to help me get this dump truck unstuck from cherry pits. And if anyone's ever driven in a pile of cherry pits, which is probably very, very few people in the country, it's like driving on foot thick set of marbles, basically. So
Yeah.
no traction anyway. So with walkie-talkies coaching me through how to get jerked out of a pile of pits with a dump truck. So that was one of the fun stories. But yeah, driving high-low, working in the processing plant, dumping sugar bags. The processing plant wasn't my gig, so went back outside, working on the cooling pad, probing and grading, driving high-low.
Nice. So you got to spend a lot of your time at receiving right off the rip. And then if I'm not mistaken, you did a little time doing some small engine school in Ohio for a short period of time down there?
Not small engine, but
Or what do they call it?
automotive, diesel, and high performance.
Oh, I thought you were doing like snowmobiles and shit. Maybe some lawnmower.
I went through the small program school at the Career Tech Center.
Oh,
There it was.
Junior and senior year. That was just to get out of regular classes.
Going to class.
Yeah.
And he doesn't remember most of his childhood.
Book classes weren't for me, so hands-on was more my thing.
So what was it like living in Ohio? In Lima?
The armpit of the country, I would call it.
it stinks down there.
It's just worked and went to school 4 days a week, 4 hours a day, and then working 10, 12-hour shifts after that.
Gotcha. So obviously that plays into kind of what you do here on the farm. Doing as one of the many titles you have as shop manager.
Yep.
But I don't know. The toolbox is looking a little dusty, but
So after Career Tech Center at my senior year, they allowed me to go to do work release, or I guess not work release, but
Like you're in jail.
that sounds like some part time.
so I started working in the farm shop my senior year, working afternoons in the farm shop, and then kind of always worked on the equipment pretty much after that. So every summer, I don't think I've ever missed a cherry harvest since I was probably 10 years old. So I've always come home, whether I was going to college or living in Grand Rapids for a few years after college. So I've always managed to come home for harvest and was always kind of focused on the shop and receiving, but mostly the shop. And things have escalated from there.
So how many of the pieces of equipment that are man-made on your property or for your operation?
That are made homemade in our shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we touched
Those
on that a
things are
little bit
awesome.
last week. We talked about the hedger truck, but there's plenty more.
There's
How many of those did you have your hands on?
not too many. My Uncle Jan did a large majority of the fabricating when he was working. A lot of the stuff we're just still maintaining. Excuse me. So just maintaining, a lot of modifying over the years and rebuilding as they kind of fall apart just from age. But
Yep.
I had my hands in welding and fabricating on a handful of the machines, maybe a dozen of the machines, whatever. But we built a lot of our own cherry tanks too, so there was a lot of fabricating and welding in the shop in the winter times.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I'd say probably just off the top of my head, probably 80% of the equipment we run on the farm is built in house.
I remember when Paul Elmer was up here from Sparta, and he sees a lot of farms. But when I brought him by there and he saw all the man-made stuff sitting out there, he was just blown away. He had to get pictures of like everything. It's like Transformers over there.
There's definitely some unique pieces of equipment. My Uncle Gene was quite the visionary. He did spend a lot of time in the field spraying and running equipment and stuff. So he would come up with a harebrained idea, write something down or draw something out on a McDonald's napkin or something like that and take it up to the farm shop. His brother, my Uncle Jan, phenomenal fabricator, would kind of build it from scratch. A lot of times they were pulling stuff out of the scrap piles and welding steel back together to make it into something else. But and a lot of that stuff is still on the farm now. So
Saving money.
Yeah.
Who
It's
came
funny
up with the
because
idea to build school buses into sprayers?
I don't remember if that was Uncle Gene or Jan or Terry Keenan, who was not a direct immediate family member, but worked on the farm for 30 years and managing the farm shop. I'm not sure who had the exact first idea, but
Impressive rigs you see when you're going down the road.
there's a few of them running around.
They definitely draw attention in the summer when those people aren't used to seeing them.
yeah.
They definitely.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like we're so used to seeing them,
Yeah.
but other people are like,
Right.
what in the heck is that?
Yeah. And most of that's just mostly built out of kind of cover the amount of acreage that we have to, right? Because if we have to have a bunch of tractors in order to kind of get across all of our ground and that.
Well, as far as they're
Kind of
talking
period of
about
time.
you shipped into the spray trucks.
Yeah, like the bigger, sorry.
Yeah,
We're
so-
talking about spray trucks, and we have a 750 gallon tank compared to smaller ones. We can apply at a little bit faster rate.
We're pretty well spread out. So the road time is what a big killer on tractors. So yeah, covering ground between loads, and we spray a little bit faster than some, probably faster than we should at times, but we managed to cover the roughly 1,200 acres up here with 4 trucks, 4 main per spray truck. So allows the guys to
That's
the
pretty
road
impressive.
Road time helps if you can cruise 40 versus cruising 18 miles an hour in a tractor just to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each truck's doing like 5 loads a day, I think, is about what
Yeah,
they can run in
4 to
about a 12-hour
5 is-
shift.
Yeah, five's a long day.
It's a lot
they-
of-
Depends on what we're spraying. If we're spraying in the organics, when we're putting out twice the water, those loads go quick versus
yes, they do.
a conventional spray.
Do they all have 750 gallon tanks on them?
Yeah, we have one truck in southern Michigan that's a 500 gallon tank.
Okay.
And then our herbicide trucks are 300s, 400s,
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
450s, but we run them at 400 just for ease of the mix,
smaller trucks.
Oh yeah.
which are much more comfortable because we used to do the weed spray loads with the 750 gallon tanks, and those were like, what, 3.5 to 4 hours to do a tank?
Depending, how much water you're putting down. But
Yeah,
we really
if
started
we're-
turning the water down for better efficacy of Roundup, basically. Got that down to, we're still on the higher side, but around 30 gallons to the acre applied. So before at times I think we were putting out 100 gallons of the acre and just didn't work very well. But yeah, you start having some of the original trucks that we used to spray with, like old Big Red and Bigger
Big
Red.
and bigger.
And
those
then
are
there was
brutal.
Super Red. Those were 1,000 gallon tanks, and you can turn those down to 30 gallons an hour or an acre, spray all damn day.
Yeah.
Yeah, those older trucks were definitely something. No shocks on the seats, just sitting in a little
brutal.
tiny. Looks like they're very similar to what the Hedger looks like. That red frame.
Yep.
Pretty much the same design.
Those definitely have improved over the years. The different designs. Some of the first ones that Jan built were really, really small cabs. They were built for you, Stephen. Not
Yeah. Merchants, right? Merchants were around
merchants,
there.
See, at least I wasn't the first person to throw a short person joke. There were a lot of those last week. I think I don't think those are going anywhere. Not the short jokes.
No.
That's too funny.
Yep.
Nice.
Zach, you have anything for Bruce here?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I just caught him off guard over there. So back on the farm, what else do you do that's farm related? Explain the shoreline operation for us and your role there.
Shoreline operation. So there's 2 shorelines. Our grower cooperative that we are a member of is the Shoreline Fruit Grower Cooperative. It's where we take all of our tart cherries through. Is in the shoreline. The co-op buys our cherries, manages the flow of those through to the processing plants that we use or to selling to outside of our group. I'm currently the president of the Shoreline Co-op, so I work with the staff up there to try to help keep us going in a direction.
One hand on the wheel.
Yeah, our the other main member of the co-op is Cherry Bay Orchards across the bay, the other side of the world, as we often say. And they have, they're basically, the 2 of us are the main suppliers to the co-op, but we still buy roughly anywhere from 8 to 10 million pounds of tarts from other associate growers outside of ourselves. Total handle normally is around 50 million pounds of tart cherries.
Do you receive from other growers downstate too?
We do some receiving, but if we have a normal crop, the way we harvest it pretty much fills our cooling pad just the way we harvest. So we'll do some receiving off-site at different locations,
Okay.
or have guys deliver direct into the processing plants.
Okay.
We spoke a little bit last week about the operation down there and how kind of intense it is because we can really get to shaking, 900 tanks in a 24-hour period, get pretty close to that.
Those are big days.
Those are big. Those are the best days when we're real close and everything goes right, like Zach was saying. Now the equipment's got to stay
Yeah.
running and
No
keep
rainstorms.
No
people
breakdowns.
Yeah, you got to keep people motivated and making sure you're taking care of the fruit. Everything has to go right.
That's when the guys get cheeseburgers.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, there's a lot of bribing going on. He goes, hey, if they get 450 tonight, I'll buy them cheeseburgers. And you've never seen they got smoke in. They just lit that thing. They chuck it. It's a done deal.
Back to work.
Yeah. So we were talking, and I mentioned how much of there's so much more that goes into it, like as far as logistics, because you're the one who organizes all the semis, most of the time organizing the trips to the processor and getting empty tanks back. Explain a little about how you go through that process of making sure that because you do a great job, we very seldom kind of run out of tanks, which I know could be a pain to pull from multiple different locations in order to make sure that we keep moving at a 24-hour a day
pace. Yeah. No, it's relatively easy the first couple days if we're only sending to one processor. Our one of our locations in Hart, Michigan, if we're sending typically the first few days all go there. So it's simple tight loops. One semi can make 2 trips a day without overworking anybody. So that gets pretty simple. But when we start, if we start having to send stuff all the way north, it gets a lot more complicated just because of the distance away. So a lot of times the drivers, if we're hauling all the way north to Keyway, and that's typically a 10-hour turn for a truck. So the driver only gets one trip a day. And then if something does happen, typically you have a truck that's dispatched 5 hours before to come down and get a load. So if you do have a breakdown, it gets guys jammed up, and truck drivers get a little bit antsy if their load's not ready. We used to have a lot of old school truck, owner operators that understood agriculture and understood the cherries thing and understood breakdowns happen, and they wouldn't mind taking an hour nap in their truck if their load's not ready. More that we go to typical, over the road truck driving companies that we have to now, just because of some of the old school guys are fizzling out. Those guys get a little more antsy, but just Google Docs, try to keep a tight loop and it's experience doing it. You go into 3 different processing facilities, that gets even more dicey because you never know where your empty tanks. It can get tight, but it's nice. We still have a great group of truck drivers that work really tight with us, and those guys understand that if they take a load up, they got to bring the empties back, and typically they get them back to me before they go sleep. So
I do like that.
It's nothing more frustrating than running out of cherry tanks at 3 o'clock in the morning. You got 3 semis parked with 70 tanks each sitting there, and you can't get to them. But Google Docs, share it with all the processing companies, and they try to help fill in if they're sending something back, and it keeps them aware of what's coming, because we try to typically run within 24 to 48 hours of the harvester to the pitter. So get them in the water and get them out, get them froze.
And I guess we could, while we're on the topic of kind of receiving and shipping and receiving, another way that we're able to kind of go through those kind of numbers is the chilled water that we run through the tanks. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to kind of push that through like that. So explain how we use a hydro chiller.
So, it's kind of more of like a super flush is what allows us to get them through the receiving station pretty quick. We're not the first ones to do that. Affiliates over in Sutton's Bay, the other side of the world, they did that, I want to say almost 10 years ago. They started doing that, maybe more. It's probably more. Yeah, it's probably more like 15 years ago now. And we implemented it about 7 years ago, but old school flushing was typically like 30 gallons and I don't even know if it was probably 5 gallons a minute going through tanks. Would slowly kind of flush the warm water out, but now we're running more like 50 to 60 gallons a minute through each tank. So they get basically the super flush, and the more volume of water going through helps kind of float the cherries a little bit and disperse the cold water throughout the tank better. So they get cooled quicker. So we run them for about 8 minutes on well water and about 5 to 8 minutes on hydro-cooled water, which is typically around 41, 42 degrees.
Interesting.
And so they get about, like I said, maybe 10 minutes of that, depending on what pace we're running. So they're on the pad for 20 to 25 minutes, and they're stacked and ready to go in a semi.
Yeah, and you go through about what feels like 4 or 5 different carriers to make all this happen. We got Barry, you got Debsky. This is done now, and we have you pull everyone even out of the blue too, and we have an extra load stacking up. There's too much. Yep. My favorite thing to do to Bruce is when he goes to bed for the 3 or 4 hours, and then he comes back in, and we have what was the most we had that one day? We had 5 loads.
I think you guys had 5 staged, yeah. So there was 250 full tanks sitting there ready, waiting for semis.
Cooled, stacked, ready for semis. And
yep.
We don't stop for anything in the night shift.
Right.
We got some good carriers that typically are running in the area. So Don Debsky's amazing. Runs a lot of big trucks, and he's never let me down. I don't think he's ever made me wait more than 3 hours to have a truck on site if we get out ahead of it, and he can roll in and take 56 tanks off the pad and help clean us up.
Yeah, it usually doesn't help us bring any empties back most of the time, but it helps clear the pad out and be
he'll,
able to keep
he'll bring them.
He's
really good too, because he'll call these guys that know the operation, understand what we're doing. And he works with a lot of other
Something.
growers. He'll be like, hey, I'm going to be going through. Do you need me to grab this load of empties and bring them up to you? Because my guy's coming up empty or something like that. So he's really good about doing that.
Right. And that's smart business too, getting work and not sending trucks up or down empty. But
I got a question. How's the hydro cooler work?
It's just a 134A hydro cooler.
Okay.
We rent it. Those things are pretty expensive to maintain, so they're also expensive to rent. But we get I can't remember what size ton the unit is. If I say it'll be wrong. But basically, it's set up to hydro cooler 250 gallons a minute. So
Wow.
it's a lot of water.
we run 2 big wells. So if we run 8 tanks at a time, and we're running about 250 gallons a minute through that zone of 8. So. And it works well. So the newer units, we put the water to it.
You said 41 degrees?
Yeah, it's
Roughly?
41 to 42. Most time it's 42. We've tried to go lower than that, and it seems like the machine will start to ice up, and then it goes into like a thaw process, and then all of a sudden you're pumping 50-degree water back into your tank, and you're not doing what you're hoping to do. So
Is that roughly what the well water is that you pump
our
through
well
first?
our well water's 50, 52.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's pulling 10 degrees out of the water.
Do you have something to monitor it all the time? The temperature?
It's self-controlled, self-contained.
Oh, okay.
You just basically set it and forget it until either the generator shuts down for some reason, or if it gets air in the hydro cooler, it'll trip a sensor and you got to bleed the air out of them. But for the most part, unfortunately, we don't have power to run it at the station, so we have to run a generator. So we're burning 250 gallons of fuel in 24 hours to run the unit.
We keep a tank right next to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's no joke. On warm days, and if we have a 90+ degree day, it'll burn an extra 20 or 25 gallons of fuel just because it's working that much harder.
Okay.
That's
wild.
crazy.
It
a lot
has,
to
it has its problems. I mean, did something happen to the one generator, or did you leave the oil cap off and fire it up that one year?
I'm pleading the fifth on all that.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to it. It just made a big mess.
Oh, yeah. There was oil everywhere. It was like 4 boxes of rags.
It made a mess. Yeah, but it did not run out of oil.
Oh, I didn't mean run out. It didn't run out, but it made a giant, hey, this thing's dripping everywhere.
Yeah, that was an oops on me.
It happens.
That happens.
Yep.
You hate to see it.
Hate
Wow, a lot of great information out of you so far.
I know.
Yeah,
You didn't see this
Holy
coming, did you?
smokes.
She's gonna get it all out of me.
My head
We're
hurts.
never gonna have to come back.
Blindsided. And Steve hasn't. He's touched on one dot on his notepad over here.
Right. I know. I'm saving them.
Saving them up. So obviously the Cherokee operation in Great Lakes has been involved a lot of family members, right? So what is it? Did your dad has 10 other siblings, right? It's 10 of them?
11.
And he has 11 others? There's 12?
There's 12 total.
Holy cow. I'm missing one somewhere. And how many of those have
Rodney,
worked?
dad, the second born,
that's
Rodney
right.
passed away young.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the one. What was my train of thought going on that?
Working with family.
Working with family, and 10 of them, almost all of them have been involved in the operation.
All
in
of them
some-
have been involved in the operation
in some way, so that's cool. And what do you think the challenges are of working with family? I'm sure Steve can attest to some of them, but do you think it has more benefits than negatives?
There's pros and cons.
Yeah,
Pros
yeah.
and cons for sure. Yeah. One thing that I probably definitely don't take pride in is that when you're working with family, you can often talk to the family members that you would never talk to another employee. It's nothing to be proud about, but it's definitely something that happens. Try to minimize that because you can often be harder on family members because you feel more comfortable that they're not going to walk off on you. And it goes both ways. I've been yelled at probably like I shouldn't be yelled at just because if I was a normal employee. So, but I think I've mostly aged out of that.
Getting yelled at?
Doing the yelling.
Well, that's going to lead me right into my next couple stories, I think. Oh, man. But we can take a break with that. Steve, what do you have over here?
Nothing, man.
We can get into the harvest stories later. There's plenty of them.
Yeah. No. Working with family is,
Yeah, what's your experience like that?
I mean, Zach's probably got a lot of
And Zach.
experience with that too.
It can be tough at times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mine's a little different. I mean, I'm married in, so I feel like there is more respect. I think because you're not on the same wavelength. Like Paul's got his things that he's really good at, and Weston and Sadie and Sue, everybody. And then a merchant comes in, and there's other things that, we just respect each other.
A lot more step stools around the house.
Yes,
and,
a lot more step stools.
Those
around the whole farm.
Those grabbers, where you can pull shit down from the top rack.
We spent all the income from last year's cherries on just ladders around the farm.
And I don't know how you couldn't be. I don't know how you couldn't be on the same wavelength as your in-laws because you lived with them for so long here.
Yes, I know. Yep. No, it's just a mutual respect thing. There's things I'm good at, and there's things they're good at. So it's probably different than direct family. Zach.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Nice.
It definitely has a negative. There's
Yeah.
probably more positives than negatives
Yeah.
when working with family.
For sure.
I mean,
It's
sometimes
nice
you
to be
get
around them all. Well, most of the time, it's nice to be
Yeah.
around them all the time.
Growing up watching.
you can depend on them, right? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well, some
one
of them.
huge positive. Is right? I guess
Growing up watching my dad's a twin, so him and his twin brother Gene. Growing up watching those two was incredible to watch because they could have a knockdown, drag them out fight about something at work, and then they'd go jump in the car and drive to a soccer game and spend all night together. And then they'd go back at work and be good or argue over something, and then just go jump in the truck. And so it's like watching that. I don't have a whole lot of that myself. I might get along with everybody pretty well. I get along with my brothers and all the family, but for the most part, I don't sit there and battle about something at work and then go spend all night long watching a soccer game. So watching my dad do that with his brother was pretty incredible. I wish I had some of that connection. There was some of the some tighter family members, but
yeah.
But they always said too that they shared a womb, so they were they were connected from the beginning, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's nice to be able to draw a line and separate that from time to time. Obviously, we all have that in common with everybody that we work with.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I've yelled at you plenty of times.
A lot
and
of
then
times. Plenty.
gone out for a beer afterwards.
Yeah.
Or go see the baby. So
Yeah.
I'm not totally out on my yelling stage. I take most
Can't
of it
take
out
it
on you
personal,
now,
right?
so.
You
Yeah.
can't take it personal.
Shit rolls downhill.
Business.
Yep, it happens.
Actually, the one time I was actually really mad at you was, I think it was this last year, was when the guys were throwing buckets of water on the shaker. One of them was overheating. And I don't know where I was, but I just rolled up on a forklift. I don't know if I was checking on the crews, came back, and you were hot about it. And you were just
turns
looking for me. Just couldn't
Turns
wait
the,
to turn
turns
into
the
me.
dirt to mud, and then you got mud in the
Was that the
radiator,
same
not just
time you
dirt.
tried to run them over with the forklift?
No, that was a different day, but that's
okay.
funny. No, and then so my wife was actually on the way, and she was like, "I'm gonna bring you some ice cream." I saw Bruce is out here, and I'll grab him some ice cream. And then he just tore me a new one, and then I was like, "Here's your ice cream." I wanted to dump it out right after he ripped on me too, and I was like, I should tell Macy just to throw it out the window.
That's not on your YouTube channel, right?
No, but running him over with a forklift almost was. It was funny because right before we did this, he goes, "Come with me and drive the forklift up." And I go, "Okay, hold on, let me grab my camera." He goes, "Why the hell are you grabbing that thing? Nothing's gonna happen. We're just putting on the." And I said, "You never know. You never know."
And then who knew the starter was falling off of it? So I had to hold the starter in place while you started.
and it was in gear.
Well, yeah, that happened to be the second time that he had started it.
And I think I said, make sure it's not in gear before you start.
You did the first time, and then it started. Then I tried to move it, and it died out. And then you crawled back under there, and
Man.
never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Speaking of not dull moments, one of my most favorite stories of Bruce was.
Careful. I have lots of stories on you, too.
Yeah, so he actually got his truck backed into from a shaker,
That was a good day.
and
Not my finest moment.
yeah, I happened to be working at receiving at the time, and so the legend kind of grew as Bruce.
What truck?
What was it?
I was
white?
driving an 03 Duramax
Okay.
GMC.
You don't remember he had the gold door? He had to get a new door put on it, and it was gold. It was a different color. Oh man! If anyone knows anything about Bruce, that really didn't sit well with him. You like your things nice.
No,
and having a
yeah,
different
dude, I
color
just-
door is not a good look.
Oh, I just don't like seeing something get tore up. And
So
my worst thing, if someone makes a mistake and tears something up and they own it, I'm good with that. But when it's denied and like acting like it's not their fault, when I just watched you drive 100 yards out of your way to run into my truck, and then sit there and look at me with a blank stare on your face, like, oh, no big deal. I lost my ever-loving mind on that one.
Yeah.
Is that what Talon did?
It was
no,
not
it was not
Talon.
me.
No.
I was working at receiving, and so this happened, a ways from where they were loading the trucks. And so as each bus driver comes in, the legend is growing. They're like, "Oh, I was like 3 rows away." He was pretty upset. Then the other guy's like, "I was taking a shit in the woods like a mile away, and I could hear him screaming from there." So then he finally rolls in a little bit later, and he goes, "I'm guessing you probably heard what happened already." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I heard." So everyone on the farm heard already. That was
Well, I understand. So we'd always try to park the trucks away from equipment. I know I've yelled at you. I've seen
Weekly.
our other trucks get hit. Like, there's no need to
for this
park
specific
when all
thing.
the equipment's moving around, right? So I purposely parked like 6 rows away, past where they had already harvested. So there was no need for equipment to be back where I parked. And the road that the harvesters were going down had a goofy side hill, and the kid couldn't be where he needed to be with the shaker. So he had to back out and get to a different spot. And so he backed up literally 150 yards and then turned and continued to back towards my truck and drove. And he didn't even need to go there, but he just drove, like he did it on purpose. And then was watching me when he did it. Like and I felt like it happened on purpose. And I'm just watching. I'm like, he's going to stop. He's going to stop, right? Like, no, he didn't stop. Right through the back door. Yeah, whole door, window. It's awesome.
Jeez.
So I got to drive around with a gold door for the rest of harvest on a white truck. It was quite the look.
very funny. Very funny.
Yeah.
So what stories do you have? You said you got some stories.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Spit one out.
I don't want to.
We don't need to bring up any LED lights, though. You can leave that one.
Well, no, I mean, it's hard to see when the LED lights are coming.
Yeah.
How about the suitcase stories? We don't need to throw that out. But if we want to stay on the farm relations, farm side of things,
That's the thing, though, is it kind of strays. You can go wherever we want.
One of the best stories from you is when you called me panicking because the hedger was on fire.
I forgot about that. That was interesting.
So we typically try to equip all the equipment with up-to-date fire extinguishers. Just, things happen, right? They often get used. So Talon is driving the hedger truck, and you've seen it. You can put a picture in your thing. It's a Mad Max looking machine, right? 4-bar sickle bar hedger, and it gets
bus.
lots of clippings build up on it, and it's happening. We're doing all of our hedging during pedal or bloom, so there's a lot of pedals and very flammable stuff, hydraulic leaks, gas. I mean, the thing's it's a unit. So, anyways, the battery cable came loose and arced out. And started a little fire on the battery, I guess. So Talon, instead of trying to put the fire out, calls me and says the hedger's on fire. And I'm like, well, put it out. And he's on the phone. He jumps out of the truck while on the phone, slips and falls. And he's trying to get a stick to swat this. And I'm like,
I had
he's
a
like,
cherry
it won't.
branch,
I
and
can't.
He's like, it has these little squares. Or no, it has that little
it's
flat.
got
So
some
I got
meshing
this
under
little
the
thing.
hood,
I'm
so-
going like this. And it wouldn't.
And
Brutal.
I said, so I'm listening to this. He's panicking.
That was
And I'm
gonna
like,
blow up.
get the fire extinguisher out of the truck. Oh, he has this revelation, runs and gets the fire extinguisher and poof, puts a little fire out. But just listening to him panic.
Well, yeah, I was just doing my thing, hedging. I looking behind to see if I can knock some of the clippings off how I was turning, and I could just see a little fire going. I was like, oh, no. It's like,
This is bad.
slammed it in park, and I got out of the truck so fast. And, you have to turn, as you turn to get out, the fire hydrant or the fire extinguisher is right here. So, I opened the door and walked right by it. And I'm running, I slip in the grass, and I'm freaking out, calling them.
Yeah.
Have my AirPods in, I'm just beating the hell out of it with a stick.
AirPods. This wasn't that long ago then.
No, this was, I don't know.
No, he was a grown man. Yeah.
I caught a track.
You should see me when a mouse pops up unexpectedly.
Loading the dozer? That was scary.
Unloading the door.
Last year, Paul was out giving farm tours on a tractor, and what do you call those again? Why am I drawing a blank?
Like a wagon ride?
Yeah, wagon rides.
wagon.
There was a bunch of people on the wagon, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna run out of fuel." said, will you bring me some? So I drove out, found him with the 5-gallon gas can. And he stopped and got off and was talking to everybody on the wagon ride. And he's like, fill it up. And it was like way up here, you know? So I'm like filling it up. And a big gust of wind comes, blows the fuel all over the engine, catches on fire. Oh. I've never seen people jump off that way so fast. It was terrifying.
Right?
Because then, like, as the engine was running, like, flames were, like, being shot out of the fuel tank right by my face, and I was trying to put it out.
Right?
It was super scary.
He's still pouring more in.
But to watch all those people jump out. Yeah, that was awesome. It was terrifying. Yeah.
Remember when the boys were taking forklifts out to park them for storage?
Oh, yeah.
Guy drove all the way from Keyway in one of our homemade forklifts. I think this was like a 1985 Chevy half-ton Blazer, right? 2-wheel drive. Well, he put it all the way in first lock. So he drove it from Keyway and made it all the way up here, basically right in front of your building here in Acme, in first gear going 35 miles an hour before it finally grenaded the motor. And when it grenaded the motor, it shot oil all over the exhaust and caught on fire. So they're on the side of the road.
There's 3 of us.
There's 3 forklifts, and like I said, most of the time the fire extinguishers work, but a lot of times with the forklifts, when they're driving through under trees during harvest, the pins get pulled and they accidentally get spent or whatever.
Yep.
So all 3 of the forklifts had spent fire extinguishers on. And so they were trying to throw dirt on it from the side of the road, and people are just driving by, no one's stopping to help.
No shovel. We're just getting...
Yes.
Juan's out in the middle of the road here waving traffic down, and they're just ripping by him. They're like, what's this guy, what's this amigo doing out here?
Yeah.
That thing had to have been screaming.
Oh, yeah.
going down the road.
I can't imagine.
This is the same
All
guy.
the way.
Yeah, this is the same guy who
Not the same one.
caught a
that hit
mower on
Bruce's
fire.
Truck.
No. This is one of our full-time guys. When you catch a mower on fire,
Yeah, clutch started slipping, and he mowed for who knows how
you
long
look, there's
before it
like
actually caught
25
him.
rows that have half of it mowed.
He got the slip clutch so hot that it melted the PTO slip cover and caught the slip cover on fire. He mowed for so long with the clutch slipping.
Never looked back.
Also, the same guy that I pull out to the orchard, and he's mowing with the mower in the fully pinned position, so he's mowing at full height. So he's mowing like 16 inches high. I'm like, dude, you're not even cutting grass. What are you doing?
Just topping it. This is also the same guy that blew the rear battery out of the back of Mister at Shoreline, and that was I think that was the most mad I've ever seen you in my life.
That's an impressive feat.
You were so mad at it.
To hit a hole so hard that the truck-sized battery jumps out of the holder and then drug with the battery cables long and until the battery cables broke and lost the entire battery.
So he shows up back at the shop and he's like, hey, my rear motor won't start. Bruce goes, it's because there's no battery in it. So we made him drive back out to the orchard and walk the rows till they found it.
Oh my gosh. You can't make this stuff
You
up.
were so mad. It was one of those where I was like out
Hate
there
to
like
see
filling
it.
my truck up or something, and I walked away. I was like, I can't even watch. It was like a car accident, you know.
Yeah.
You just
Was that the one that they busted the frame on?
That's the one that's
Yeah.
getting the
Okay.
frame replaced, yeah. Yeah, the 6-month-long frame replacement.
yeah, same project.
Making a lot of changes to that truck, though, too.
The same one that's in there right now?
That was.
I mean, we had to
that
weld
had been 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah, but we welded that frame together
Couple
3 or
times.
4 times, and then this summer, that specific truck is the truck that does the best in wet spots, and we have some orchards that are wet, and we have some spots that have some pretty deep holes that just no matter what we do, the holes come back. And I think as the year progresses and the guys just don't want to ask anybody to come fix the hole or whatever, and they just go through it faster and faster, and
just
then until all of a
grenade through
sudden
it,
the truck pulls back into the shop driveway with the back bumper basically dragging on the ground because the frame's broken in half. So
And they just get out and look at you.
yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise because the bumper's dragging down the road.
Yeah.
But in their defense, there's a couple spots that were, if you got to power through it if you want to make it across, or you get stuck every row and then you're wasting everyone
And
else's
everybody's
time.
waiting on you. Yeah.
It doesn't make it right, but
Right.
you get stuck and then you're someone else. It ruins half your day, right?
Yeah.
So it's just,
and then someone else's day.
we gotta. There's things we can always improve on some stuff, right? But
Yeah.
like I said, few orchards that are just wet and they got some underground springs that just are always there. You guys know a little bit about
Got
wet
plenty
ground.
of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, gave up one of those. Now
Yeah,
we're taking care
you
of
guys
it.
are harvesting it. Yep.
We actually haven't had that many problems. We cut down the
real
the bad
wet spots.
spots.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
we-
all the trees were dying from wet feet. Yeah.
we eliminated that issue. But that same individual still managed to drive through the road. We cut the trees out, and he's like, I still need to go down this one road. Because it was like a short road. We cut half it out, and he still went down it and got stuck like the first 2 times.
Some people just like 4-wheeling,
6-wheeling.
That's one of the big downsides of the bigger trucks carrying more water. The trucks are, I think the last time I scaled it was like 27,000 pounds when it's loaded, so they sink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavy.
Then what do you have to go to take them out with? Big tractor? You got a wheel somewhere? Or do you...
Those guys can get pretty creative, and a lot of times I probably don't want to know what they do to get them out, but either tractor, loader. Sometimes, a lot of times, when they're full, sometimes they just get stuck on wet grass in certain spots. So when they don't sink, typically another spray truck will show up, and they all carry straps, so they can give each other a little bump to get out. Then when they're stuck bad, it's the loader, mini excavator,
7220.
that shoreline piece, and when we get harvesters in there stuck, we've had some problems in there.
I think one night, excuse me, I was using the 580 with no lights on it. I had my hand out the window with my phone flashlight, driving it in reverse down the rows and everything. I think I counted 26 times I pulled harvesters out in one night. And it's so funny because it never fails. It could be a drought, but as soon as tires touch the shoreline property, there's a pop-up thunderstorm.
It's a big rain.
Yeah, it's a 3-incher, and it's just like, what the?
Yeah, we had that one time up at Buggy's. Got that, 2 inches of rain one day?
Yeah.
We had to shake it. Pulling the shaker with the Ford tractor all the time. You're always stuck.
Yep. That's a quick way to tear up your orchard floor, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you were out flying the drone this summer, we were looking at the puddles from the drone, and you're like, we were watching, we're like, is he going to drive through it? Is he not?
When harvest time.
Yeah, harvest when you were,
There, shoreline.
yeah,
Yep.
we were watching. We're
Some
like,
nighttime
let's see,
drone flying.
let's see if
Right.
their decision making, if they're just gonna smash through it, or if they're gonna back out and go around.
Yeah, that farm too. We've got some above ground sprinklers in there for some irrigation. So a lot of those you can't even cross between the rows because there's micro sprinklers. So if they get to halfway down the row and there's a water hole, they're backing all the way out, which is it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
And you get frustrated as an operator. They just get frustrated. Like, oh, I think I can squeak around that one. It's like, as soon as you try, just slide
right
down
in
in.
the hole.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it never ceases, but they always get stuck a little bit, and you can pop them out quick. But they're like, a couple more back and forth, and I'll get out. And they bury it to the frame, and then it's
then they
real,
keep going.
yeah. And then all the
And then
wheels are
and then it's
spinning.
clamped on the tree. And
Yeah,
you're cutting the tree down to get it
my
out.
favorite is when it's slid over so much that you can't get it out. So you have to get the chainsaw and cut them down.
Remember the rainstorm down in southern Michigan we had? What was that? It's probably 5-6 years ago when we were pulling every single truck in and out of the orchard with the JCB loader.
Ooh, at Magician Lake?
Trucks were just in a foot of mud, and the entire driveway was
Trashed.
unbelievable.
It must have took them forever to fix that.
I think we got like 4 inches of rain in a couple hours or something like that. I mean, we had to park the harvesters, and everyone just went home for a little while, and we come back out, and literally a couple of the harvesters were parked down a little bit low spot, and they were sitting in like a foot of water. I think one of them, the conveyor was just about completely underwater.
Wow.
It got so much rain.
Yeah.
It is
One of those,
impressive
especially
down there.
down there, if it's really frustrating, like I said, you got semis that are en route or
Yep.
there, and processing plants counting on us because, like I said, when we run tight, we don't typically get a whole lot of fruit and staged out in front of the processing plant. So if we can't harvest for a handful of hours, they can run out of fruit, and then all of a sudden now you got everybody standing and staring, looking at each other, and we try to treat every 24 hours of harvest season as it's its own harvest. If you miss an hour, you don't get it back. Typically, there's no guarantee you're going to get that hour back at the end of the harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never know when the weather's going to change or.
Quality of the fruit.
Yep.
Especially this year. We talked last year about how we had the most tonnage, but about everything that you could imagine that could possibly go wrong kind of went wrong this year.
Fruit quality
with the fruit.
across the entire state was not
good.
good last year. Every growing region had a challenge.
Yeah.
And
When
holding on to
how long have you guys been running night cruise?
Oh, as long as I can remember.
Really?
Yeah, we've been harvesting at 24 hours a day for as long as I can remember.
I remember.
Basically, probably as soon as we went to co-harvesters, I don't know
Yeah.
if we ever ran rollouts at night.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I know since we went to the co-style harvesters, we started and we bought our first one of those in 95. So we've been running 24 hours a day for at least 30 years.
Wow. I can remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but I shook with Cal down in Dowagiac or Southwest at your
Okay.
guys'
Yeah,
blocks like 15 years ago. This was 2009 or 10.
Shit, I
But it
working
was like
15
balls
years
to the
ago.
wall. You were?
Yeah, started in 2009.
I do remember that was a little bit of like a culture shock for the Nagy crew.
It
was
was
a little different.
Yeah,
program.
we're supposed to. We were used to like, I don't know. It was long days. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was good.
Cal, he runs long days now with
Yeah.
his stuff too. But
Yeah.
that was, like I said, that was 15 years ago. It was just a little bit different.
Yep.
And I think that was probably probably my second year of actually working our Southern Michigan harvest.
Okay.
I didn't go down for the first couple of harvests down there.
Just because the trees were small? Wasn't enough fruit?
We had managers
command
down
your
there that
presence.
were supposed to be
Oh, the shear boys?
managing stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But there was that came to an abrupt end, and we, Tony Alvarado went down there, and he kills it down there.
Tony's
It's great.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. I don't know what it is, if it's just the ground we have and the luck or what, but Tony always does a great job. We seem to always have as big as a crop as we feel like we could ever have.
Yeah, what down there, the frost protection we run down there has a way better and bigger impact than what you do up here.
Up here.
I don't know if it's just because it's so flat down there, or they get the more heat during the day to warm the soil up a little bit more. And our particular farms are pretty flat, so the wind machines I think do a lot of good to help stir some air up. Up here, I think we've got so much, topography or whatever the word is. We get air drainage, and I just don't think I just don't see the results. We always thought we did. I mean, we back in the day we would burn 3,500 gallons of gasoline in a night running some frost fans. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we were just heating up the air with all the exhaust or if we were doing good moving the air, but we always felt like we had a big impact. But after seeing what we see in Southern Michigan, and I think that the chemicals have come a long way too. We could do some more frost protection through
So do you guys still run the frost fans?
I'm a lot more selective
Yeah.
now, just because
Because that's a big expense.
when gas was $1, it was one thing, but now it's you're up over around $3, $2.50, whatever it is. Now it's just a lot of money, and the machines are getting more and more tired. Every night we run and we smoke a motor or smoke a transmission.
Right.
It's almost a given. A lot of those things are old Chevy chassis, right? So you get a little bit of a transmission leak on a shifter shaft seal, and it sits for a month before you run it again. And the guy that goes out in the middle of the night to run it doesn't have his flashlight or doesn't take time to check the transmission, and it runs unmanned. And you either come back to it sitting there running at 3,500 RPM and not doing anything, or you come back to it with a pile of scrap metal on the ground.
Yeah.
And I've seen it both ways. It's a little. It's an eye opener when you come up to a free running engine with no load on it.
Hit the off button.
Like, do I even try to shut this thing off, or I just walk away? Right?
Yeah.
But luckily, most of the time, the older ones, they'll throw the fan belt off, and we get shut down we got low oil pressure and high temperature shutdowns on them. So if they throw the water bump belt, they'll get hot real quick and shut themselves off, save themselves. But never took the investment or time to invest in the rev limiters. Got a couple of them on rev limiters, but.
Yeah, most all your frost fans are homemade. Right?
Yeah. The new ones downstate are mostly all Shinooks, but we surround the Chinook, which is the big windmill style machine, right? So those are great. They move a lot of air. We run some Orchard Right stuff too, and then we put our home built fans around them to try to help expand their coverage. And we just get a lot better. We see tremendous results from them down there. I mean, it's. If there's frost events, you can see it. When you're getting close to the frost fan because you're all of a sudden it's one or two less trees to fill a tank, right?
Yep. So, interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. You can in the full circle radius. How far do those? What's the?
I think
predicted
they
range?
rate like 10 or 12 acres.
Yeah, and it's you can just see it in a circle. It's
The Shinooks.
in the Chinooks, right around them.
And then like I said, we so at the outskirts of like their 300-foot radius or whatever it is, we put some of our fans towards the edge of that to help try to catch that warmer air that they're throwing out, and we'll try to catch that warmer air and push it farther with the ground fans.
Nice.
Pull the warm air down and push it out.
And then you guys
Spots.
spray like potassium acetates, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I normally know there's a frost event when I wake up and walk outside, and I can hear the
hear 'em.
Shinooks
They
running.
are loud.
Yeah, those Shinooks have a distinctive sound.
Yeah, that's even across the water. You can hear them.
Yeah, when I go out, typically I stay out. If we're running at night, I'll typically stay out, just drive around and look at machines and check, make sure things are still running or whatever. But if I go home, if I'm tired or whatever, I just want to go sit down for a little while. I'll go home, and then if I just want to hear them, I just open up the door and put my head out the window and like, yeah, it sounds like everything's still got a load on it and running right.
Good enough justification to go back to bed. So you come back and there's one on fire. Have you you ran into one that was actually on fire? Didn't one at Frank's catch fire one year? That was one of the old Phil Brown towers caught fire. I remember seeing a big old burn pile or a big burn mark all around it.
I don't think I came up to it when it was on fire, but it definitely
Was on fire.
exploded the transmission right onto the exhaust and caught fire, and luckily it put itself out.
That would be
I have come across a ground fire when we've had I think there was like a week old burn pile, and it was kind of out, and then the guys came out and put the frost fan in front of the burn pile.
Stirred it up.
So yeah, all of a sudden and the thing was, the ashes were over a week old, and all of a sudden I come back out, I'm pulling up the machine, I'm like, what is going on? Like, is that like sparks flying out of the back of the thing? I get up there, I'm like, holy crap, we're blowing ashes, cinders across this field. I'm like, God, this could have had a pretty nasty grass fire.
set the county on fire.
Accelerated with a frost fan. But so I shut that one off, didn't run that one anymore.
Yeah.
Do your Shinooks, can you monitor them from your phone or something remotely? Is that
I
technology
don't know if they
there
have
yet?
those out there from the factory. We got one auto start, but all of our other ones are all manual start. So
Okay.
looking back, I wish I would have went with more auto starts. But at the time when we were buying them, we have 75 other machines that were out here starting. So my guy's going to come by and start it anyways. But now we've got, I think we have like 15 Shinooks or something like that now. So it'd be nice to have some of those on auto start. But we have one auto start. It's all the way over in Empire. So no one's going to drive 40 miles to Empire to go start one machine and then have to shut it off.
And babysit it.
What triggers it to
Just
auto start?
temperature.
Temperature.
So you can manually start it, or you can arm it in auto start. And so if we have one of our processing plants over there, and I'll just ask one of the guys to go flip it to the auto. And then I think it triggers. I think we have that one set to trigger at 31 degrees.
Okay.
I think is what we have that one starting at.
Then you have to shut that off manually, so someone from the plant.
It'll
comes over there
it'll
to-
shut itself off once it hits the temperature. Once it gets back up to whatever temperature it's set at.
And that's obviously high enough to stay away from the up and down that it consistently does. That we're always
Yeah, I
watching.
can't remember if it has to be at a certain temperature for so long, but
That might probably make more sense.
and then it'll shut itself down, and then they'll just go turn them off, because if you leave those on auto start, if it gets cold, there's a breeze, they'll disintegrate themselves. They can't handle any wind,
Gotcha.
and they can't handle any natural wind. The blade will disintegrate.
Huh.
Yeah,
didn't know that.
there's been some nasty. Didn't you send a picture to all of us one day and said park your truck like way when you go to shut it off or turn it on, because the one like blew up right and grenaded a dude's truck, and it was like both the blades just
There's definitely some.
blew up.
Then when they come apart, it's not good, because they'll typically chuck one blade and then they're completely out of balance, and then I've heard they've taken the entire tower down if they'll run long enough out of balance, and they'll
just
vibrate themselves apart. Yeah, we typically try to make sure they go on a 4-minute rotation. So the theory with those Chinook in the Orchard Right machines is they put fresh warm air on the flour every 4 minutes. So it's on a 4-minute rotation. So if you get to it and it's spinning right above the engine that you have to go to the controls to shut it down, kind of tell the guys to wait, give it a minute or two so it rotates away. So at least if it does happen to come apart when you're right under it,
It doesn't go through the top of
hopefully
your
it
head.
doesn't. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come right on top of you.
Right.
You have a chance of getting away from it.
That
right.
makes sense. And they're all propane?
Yep. Those are all on Triton V10s. Pretty efficient. I think they burn about 3 gallons of propane an hour, so they're relatively efficient.
Oh.
And most of the time up here, we're only running them for an hour. Sometimes, sometimes we do the long run,
Yeah.
but for the most
6
part,
or
it's-
8 hours is a long pull. Tony has
Tony
some
runs-
long pulls.
yeah.
He's got a lot more hours on the machines down there.
What temperature do you guys start thinking about turning them on at?
Depends on the stage of the bud.
Okay.
But if I see 28, I'm starting them.
Yeah.
And you shut them down at what temperature?
28, 29. If it's coming back up, like if in the morning, it's
After
always
the sun comes up.
Yeah, the sun always.
Okay.
If it's still cold out when the sun comes up, you always have to wait till the sun's up because it always drops.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
before
a
the sun
degree or
comes
two
up.
before as the sun's coming up. So, but yeah, that's kind of been my theory. Is like I said, depends on the stage, but we have some weather monitoring stations out, and we have one that's out by my house where I start all the machines, and it's in a low spot. So that one, I don't start anything till that one hits 28.
Okay.
Some of the sites that are like out at the Cox farm, that station's at a good site. So if that one's getting down towards 30, we'll start machines out that way because if it's 30 on the good site, the low spots are cooler.
Lower. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes for a couple long nights when we have frost back to back. What was it, right before my bachelor party? We did like we started at like 9:30 at night. We're up all night.
yeah,
We flew out the next.
primed for staying up late. Yeah, after that, yeah.
Yeah, that was a long one. Bruce was a riot at my bachelor party. The first bar, the first night, I caught him on the bar, at the rooftop bar, sleeping in a lounge chair with his cocktail on his lap.
Didn't you guys make buddies with the cab driver, the Uber driver, and
Gary West, Gary West, Uber driver Gary, dude was the man.
You guys a legend.
Yeah, yeah. So
told you guys if you ever come back, here's his number to.
Where did you go for your bachelor party?
Nashville. Yeah, so I think it was like the first night we got down there and we ordered 2 Ubers because we had too many people for one, right? And so we're all kind of loading in, and someone was like, "Hey, well, when's their Uber coming?" And he said, "Well, wait a minute."
The very first driver that showed
Yeah.
up to give us a ride.
He said, "How many y'all got?" And I said, "I don't know, probably 4 or 5 more." He goes, "Well, y'all take care of me. I don't care." So he loaded us up, dropped us off at the first place, and then he gave me his card. He said, "Call me when you guys want to get picked up." So it was 3 a.m. or whatever, and Ubers are what were they, like $90 to go, like.
He treated us good for sure.
And so I called him right away, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm dropping people off. I'll be right there." Came, picked us up.
Wow.
He showed us what the rate was, and we always gave him like $20-$40 over what it was.
Right.
And he dropped us off, and then I think it was like at 11 the next morning, I get a text, and he says, "Hey, this is Uber driver Gary. I'm up when you're ready for a ride." And he picked us up every single time we asked. He did whatever, dropped us off at a.
Took us to his house one time because one of the guys left their jacket in the back of his car. He's like, "Oh, I forgot the jacket." So he drove us to his house. His little lapdog comes running up.
Oh my god.
barking.
All the guys are playing with the dog in the front yard.
Yeah, he was special. That's for sure.
He was a riot. And then my wife, her bachelorette party was 2-3 weeks later or whatever. And we were sitting at Shorts, and we said, "You know what? We should contact Gary." And I said, "Hey," I texted him. I said, "If I give my wife your phone number, will you take care of the girls on their trip?" He goes, "Absolutely." And he drove them every time.
Really?
Yeah. He was
He was solid.
he was the man. You got to have a guy like that, especially in Nashville.
yeah.
We didn't wait.
No, it was
all.
perfect.
Like every
that's-
time.
The house was super nice we were at, but it was unfortunate. It was like a 4-mile walk or something like that to get into town. So it was
too far
it was
walk.
Yeah,
not
like
much
too
of one to walk into town twice a day or whatever. So yeah, Gary hooked us up, saved us some cash.
Dude, Gary was the man. He was actually really cool. If only. Well, I always say I want to go back. I haven't been to Nashville in a minute. I don't think it's been
It
since
is
that
awesome
party.
there.
I'm ready, especially when you get off the main strip. The
Dude, that
and
was the
back
best
streets.
day.
The back streets of the day.
and Bruce. So one of my groomsmen, Bruce Bailey, he went obviously down with us. And what was it, the last night? Whatever. We went off
Yeah.
the main strip, and we started hitting the little side roads that go east to west off of Broadway. And we got into this little sidebar, and Bruce and Bruce were arm wrestling at the bar, and the bartenders pulled out like wads of cash that thick, and they were putting bets down on the table about who was going to win.
They encouraged it. It was a funny thing because normally like arm wrestling in the bar is like a big no-no, right? It's going to cause a fight. And Bruce and I were up there arguing over who's going to buy the round of beer, and the bartender's like, "Why don't you guys arm wrestle for it?" We're like, "You're gonna let us?" He's like, "Hell yeah!" And they started. The two bartenders start like hollering, "I got $20 on gray shirt."
There were other people chiming in too,
People
putting money
chipping
on it.
in money on it. And so yeah, Deuce and I sat right on the bar.
Yep.
You know,
I think we still have
squared
some
up.
pictures of
So who won?
I beat him with the right hand. He beat me with the left, I think.
He's
Gotcha.
left-handed, so they had to do both. After he got his ass
that
kicked
makes
on the
sense.
right hand, he's like, "No, this is my weak hand." So he had to switch it up.
Yeah.
No, that was a solid trip. Nobody got in too much trouble, and
There's no
everybody
trouble.
made
That's
it
good.
back.
I just took a little nap at the
Just quick nap at the bar.
one bar.
Yeah.
It's fine.
He cooked up the classic Bruce Veliquette breakfast
Yeah,
for everybody.
That's a good gut bomb after a good hard day of drinking.
Yep.
What is
That was
it?
too much
Oh,
drinking.
it's just a
16 eggs? No.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, there was definitely 16 eggs in that scramble feeding 10 dudes down there. But no,
Yeah.
it was I try to minimize my mess when I cook, so it's all in one pan. Just,
Oh, nice.
you brown up the sausage, and then you throw in some frozen potatoes, and then you throw in some eggs, and throw in some cheese, all in one pan. It's good.
Nice.
Don't drain the grease.
Easy.
You don't have to drain the grease off or anything.
Right.
You don't have to add butter for the potatoes because the grease is from the sausages in there. It's perfect.
Yep.
It's like a domino effect, you know.
Yeah.
And then you just put that right on top of a full gut of whiskey, beer, and vodka, and you're set. You're
I
set.
don't know if anybody ever sobered up the entire time we were there because it was
No,
beers right after breakfast pretty much every day.
Well, breakfast beers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the only way to do
And
it.
then you got to have lunch beers.
Well, yeah, and then you roll right into just the afternoon
dinner beers?
Yeah,
And then you're calling Gary to find what's the closest dive bar.
yeah.
And
Bruce
Gary
said,
takes
"Drop us off at the shittiest bar you can find." There were people smoking
Oh, yeah.
cigarettes inside.
What was
Oh
that
my
called?
The Cobra.
Cobra.
The Cobra.
The Cobra. It was the darkest, dingiest bar. Just completely filled with smoke and just smelled like
Yep.
life, like regret and bad decisions. And
A couple locals in there we were playing pool against for shots at the bar and throwing darts between people's fingers and stuff. Just-
and we walked outside and it was still daylight. It's perfect.
We're like, "Hey, pick us up. We're ready for lunch." Oh, that was a solid trip. That was a solid trip. Yeah. Never a dull moment. That's for sure.
So, where do you see the cherry industry heading next
That's
few
a
years?
deep. That's a deep conversation.
That's why I saved it to the end.
yeah.
And
We're,
dish.
we're,
And
we're,
dish.
we're halfway through.
I know.
I actually heard you say a couple weeks ago, this is going to be the year it turns around.
Yeah, and that was a couple years ago.
No, that was like, no.
I think I've said that.
Did you say that every spring?
No, it's the cherry industry has a history of being pretty cyclical, right? 10-year cycles of ups and downs, and this down cycle it seems to be kind of lingering for the last few years. It's not super easy to make a living growing tart cherries right now.
Yep.
A lot of trees coming out of the ground. We're as an industry, we've been oversupplying. We can outproduce what we've been selling. I don't want to say oversupplying. We've been outproducing what we've been selling. So,
Yep.
where do I see it in 3 years? Probably going to be less growers. Some of the big growers will probably be a little bit bigger, and there'll be less growers as some of the guys just walk away from it and lease their ground out. Like we see right here, some guys throw in the towel and just pull all the trees out.
Yep.
It's sad to see, but it's just what some of the guys make the decisions. They don't have family coming in behind them. They don't have any succession planning for the next generation to manage the farm. So
Yep.
take the trees out, right? Plant corn or start building houses. But where do I see it in 3 years? If it doesn't turn around and start getting some more grower dollars back in the growers' pockets, it's gonna obviously be even more depressed than where it's at
chunking,
right now.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the industry's has changed some leadership in some of the organizations within the Cherry Marketing Institute and
Which you're a part of, right?
Cherry. I'm on the CIAB board, the Cherry
Okay.
Administrative
Gotcha.
Industry Administrative Board,
Yep.
which is that board helps manage the federal marketing order and the optimum supply formula, so we can regulate our crop to help manage, so we don't try not to put too much product on the market and saturate and depress pricing. There's a lot of different views on if that's still working as it should.
Sure.
I think we got some opportunities to make some adjustments and some change, hopefully going forward, to make that more usable and hopefully have a better impact on grower pricing. It's a global market that we're dealing with, and it's a bigger global market now than it was when this formula and the OSF was put together. So if we just to over-regulate ourselves and keep our product off the market, there's nothing to stop the imports to come in. So we just got to grow demand of and awareness of what the American Montmorency tart cherry is. The variety that we grow in the U.S. is a different variety that's grown around the rest of the tart cherry growing region in the world. So most of the European tart cherries that come in are a darker Morello type cherry, and they don't have quite the same nutraceutical values as the Montmorency cherry. So raising their awareness on that is that's where we have a little bit of a niche with the products that we grow. So getting awareness, America's a big place, right? It doesn't take very many people to just eat some more cherries or drink some more juice to increase that, the demand. And once the demand's there, you get some more processors that have to compete to get the fruit because they have more demand for their product. That'll definitely help, and unfortunately a lot of the processing has gone away in the state has gone away from grower owners. So as the processing gets away from the farther away from the farm, the less the processing cares about the farm.
Gotcha.
We're still grower owned. We're vertically integrated. So we grow, we hit / process and harvest, and then we manufacture and market. So we are doing what we can to try to keep it. Unfortunately, the markets that we're in are not don't have the best ability to absorb huge fluctuations at the grower level. So which was our biggest input, obviously, if we're selling a juice, the cherry is the input, right? So as owners of it, we understand that. We oftentimes pay ourselves less than what we pay our neighbors because we have to feed the machine. But then we have to be competitive with our neighbors because there's other processors that are in some different markets that have the ability to take on some of those higher inputs. I don't know if I'm answering your question on where we're going to get in 3 years, if I knew that question, I'd probably be a pretty popular guy
for sure,
because people would either be taking out more trees faster or people would be staying in.
Right. So. Well, I know a lot of people are struggling with trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so
we're planting trees. So we planted 100 acres last fall. And we're hoping to start another nursery here in another year, probably, to grow some more trees to get ready to replant.
So do you think a lot of it is like just education on the tart cherry? And I mean, because it does have great health benefits, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, I think it's more promotion of getting that information in front of the right people.
With social media nowadays, Talon, you need to get on there and start selling it.
Dude, social media is no joke.
Influencers, right? You get one influencer
there was
to talk about
cherry mocktail that a influencer did a quick video on. All of a sudden, there was like this mad rush on Montmorency tart cherry juice, and we saw a direct impact. Moving volume. So
it
has a huge impact for sure. The one of the biggest challenges that the industry has, as far as it's kind of it's a delicacy fruit. It's not just doesn't have that name recognition that you're not going to go buy a tub of tart cherries at the produce section because they have to be, they're in the frozen section. They're not a blueberry where you can pick it and put it out in the produce section, or a banana that's sitting there ready to go, right? So we have a lot more input into that product to get it to the consumer. So it makes that price point a little bit higher. So it's more of the delicacy type thing. And then what we do with the dried, that's even more input. Basically takes, the conversion is 5 pounds of raw cherries to make 1 pound of dried cherries by the time it goes through the whole process. So it gets to be an expensive product. So it's, but if people if everybody sprinkles a little bit of cherries on their salad,
it's huge.
It makes a huge difference.
And the glass,
Do we export any tart cherries? Do you know?
Yeah, some, not very many. Yeah.
Is that something you get more into, you think? Because
when
do
the European market is down, if they have a short crop, that's when we export. Last year, the European crop was short, so we were able to export. The industry basically exported more juice, more concentrate. Is the biggest export we do.
So, what do you think is the best product, or what's the best selling product that we do? Is it just the straight dried cherries, or is the juice coming along as a more popular option in some of these retail? Where can you get these products that we're speaking about? Where are they available, Bruce?
Amazon?
Where can we purchase
You
them?
can get them on Amazon.
You can get them on
You
Amazon.
can get them on Amazon. So the retail brand is Cherry Bay Orchards. We're in Amazon. We're in Myers here in Michigan. And Costco is across most of the Midwest and the Costco stores for the dried and some of the juice. They do the juice kind of on a rotation. And those are often the juice is in our brand normally around here. I think the juice is in our brand on all the regions, but the dried is sometimes in their Kirkland. I think I'm drawing a blank if the dried is in our brand or if it's in the Kirkland brand. But we're not the sole supplier for Costco. They have some other suppliers too. So those are the big outlets. But yeah, online you can get them. The biggest seller, the biggest mover of raw product is the dried, because like I said, 5 pounds of raw into 1 pound of dried. We probably put at least half of our raw crop goes through dried. Probably 25% through juice. The other 25% is some frozen sales, selling to the pie fill market. We don't process any pie fill though. We just sell raw to the pie fill market.
We talked a little bit about the health benefits, but probably name what those are.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm leaving this one to Bruce.
So
Marketing expert, Bruce Veliquette.
there's natural melatonin in tart cherries. So as you talked earlier about giving your kids some melatonin, right?
Right.
I
need to be giving them cherry juice.
natural sleep aid.
Cherry Bay Orchards.
There you go.
You sell it at Myrtle Lamont.
Dang it. It's right there.
Right across the street.
Anti-inflammatory properties, and there's a lot of studies researching around gout. So I know personally have had gout and have gout, but if I stay on my cherry pills, the gout typically stays away. So
Ooh, talk about the cherry pills.
Nice.
it
Yes.
helps with arthritis and this muscle recovery. So the industry's trying to target a lot of like the marathon markets
sure.
and the healthy people. They don't always buy a lot though.
Yeah.
The old people like to buy stuff and they like the tart flavor.
Yep.
I can't remember exactly what the numbers Curtis Rowley was saying in one of his speeches he did, where he was talking about if we could get, I forget what the percentage of, if we could get a couple cherries into school lunches, like how much product that would move for the country and how much of a big impact it would make, not just obviously for us, but the whole industry.
It's a pretty incredible number. It's like 1% of the school lunches could move someone like 10 million pounds of product to something.
It's crazy.
It's a very, very small percentage of, if you can get on 1% of the plates that are served at schools. So that's one of the avenues that the industry is working pretty hard at, trying to get into some school lunch programs.
That would be huge. Yeah.
Is there a reason that they aren't now?
Like the sugar.
Probably expense. Price.
Some of it is probably the industry's fault, the cherry industry's fault for not pushing towards it hard. Price point, and the sugar, typically they have, I was always under the impression, I think a lot of us in the industry were under the impression that there was like dried cherries couldn't get into the school lunch programs because there's sugar in it.
A lot of sugar.
And there's too much sugar, so therefore it's a high sugar thing. But what it really is they look at the entire plate. So the entire meal that's on that plate has to have a certain amount of the nutrition facts or whatever it is.
Right. So it could balance
So
it.
if they put a little bit of a sweet product on there, they can do something else with more starch product or whatever, right? So they balance that. So there's opportunities, and did a bunch of flavor profile testing. The industry went out with a bunch of different products, some juice, some dried, some apple juice apple sauce with some cherry in it, and
Nice.
the flavor profiles did well. So there's some formulators. There's a whole racket getting into that. You kind of go through. I don't remember what they call them. I'm gonna say it's like the producer. You provide them with the product, and then they're gonna come up with the formulas, or the ingredients for the meal.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
then, so they can push that into the schools.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into politics at all, but Kennedy seems right. What's his first name?
RFK.
Yeah.
Robert.
Yeah. Seems to be pushing this more and more. And I see tart cherries falling into what he's pushing.
Yeah.
Big time.
Just got to get the word out there.
Educate, man. It's just educate. People need to be educated.
Yeah, so the juice is just all natural sugar. There's no, unless
Right.
somebody adds a sugar, does a sugared juice, but
Yep.
The natural, not from concentrate juice that we sell, that's just cherry juice, right? There's no artificial sugar
Yep.
sweetener in it. The dried typically is sugar infused dried. With the advantage that the tart cherry has over most other dried fruits is it's a really low amount of added sugar compared to like a dried cranberry. A dried cranberry is basically just a shell of a fruit with its pumped with 100% artificial, not
Gotcha.
natural sugar. So
Yep.
if we compare like a dried cranberry versus a dried tart cherry, the dried cranberry is cheaper. So if someone's just looking to sprinkle some color into one of their salads or something like that,
Sure.
the cranberry is the cheaper option. But the flavor profile, the health benefits of the tart cherry is superior, so, in my opinion.
Superior. There it was. Threw it out there.
Yeah.
A lot of great information.
That was really good.
Those are great questions,
Bruce,
Steve. What else do
you
you
did
have?
great. That's all I got. Tell us about
boy,
the organic operation.
Yeah, do you like the organics? Is it worth it? That's what
So
everybody wants
you
to
got
know.
200-ish acres of organic tart cherries
Yep.
here in northern Michigan.
Yes.
How is that going? Because it's year
Oh, 5 or 6?
5 or 6. That's what I
Oh,
was
maybe
gonna say.
7.
Of certified organic.
Yeah,
Right.
With the
It's
three,
like
with the three
year
transitional.
8 of managing it,
the
organic,
okay.
something like that. It's interesting. The trees look terrible. The orchards look terrible. Production is cut in half from a conventional orchard. We spray it twice as much.
Yep.
So we have twice the inputs, half the production, and we're killing the tree. All of the things you would think sound really, really bad,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Pencil it out to return to the grower because the organic typically brings a premium price. The return back to the farm, it's basically a push from growing conventional versus organic.
Gotcha.
Why don't I go 100% organic? Because the amount of equipment we'd have to add
Yep.
and people we'd have to add would be insane.
Yep.
So we're managing those 200 acres. It takes us 2 trucks to manage those 200 acres. The other 1,200 acres we manage with 3 to 4 trucks of spraying. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not a huge organic pusher. I'm not pushing organic on anybody. But when we actually get a crop and we can keep the bugs out of it, the fruit tastes amazing. The fruit tastes really good.
Interesting.
It's got good fiber, so it holds up through the process really well. The good ones, like I said, when we can be successful and produce half of what we normally would on a conventional,
Yep.
the cherries taste good and they run good. So if we could figure out a way to keep the production up and keep the vigor in the trees, it would be great. But then you have to manage the weeds, and that's where there's no good way to manage under the trees.
So many pests, and there's so little options to control them affordably.
It's even more, the options aren't great, and then also you just have no grace period. If you lose control, you're toast.
Yep.
There's no getting it back.
Yeah.
Definitely no getting it back. And the
Do you
weeds are
notice
brutal.
any quality issues between organic and conventional?
Quality. I mean,
Fruit quality.
I think like I said, the fruit. I think when you keep the bugs out of them, the fruit is actually it tastes better and it holds up better, it processes better. The yields through the processing plant are good.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's just more dense and it's got more fiber to it. I don't know for sure exactly what the scientific reason is.
Yep.
But if we're pumping up the conventional with some more nutrients and getting more volume, getting more weight into the cherry, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit softer versus the smaller, denser organic. I know
Yeah.
Tommy would probably rattle off 16 different reasons from what
He's-
between the
Right,
spray programs.
right.
He's
but
being pretty difficult to nail down to be a guest on the podcast.
I typically know enough to be dangerous when it comes to the spray
Yeah.
program. I've never been involved deeply in the spray program.
Yeah.
Help with the herbicide program, weed
Yeah.
management, but when it comes to the foliar spray and nutrients, that's Tyler and Tommy all day.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to steal your question, Zach.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I kind of stole that, but
that's what it's all about.
I know. I just feel bad now.
No, your question was more important.
No, I said if I wish the organic was more sustainable for us, but
Yeah.
it's killing the trees.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I mean, you literally
I know.
spray dirt on the tree and it stops all the photosynthesis, and the tree can't grow.
Right. You literally spray them with clay.
You're spraying with clay,
and you're blocking everything.
Do you have color issues from that with them?
no, we just hit it with the
typically.
potassium.
Okay.
we get them to color up. I wish we'd get them riper quicker, and loosen the stems quicker, because it'd be nice to get them off before we get the SWD pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no loosener.
You
so-
can't put loosener.
Right.
Can you?
No, at the
Which was
time.
funny because the first year we were like, these trees are old. We're gonna have to shake the crap out of them. But they actually
It's
And
not
they
bad.
naturally
they
loosen
come
up
off
pretty well.
pretty well.
Yeah.
As long as you do it at the right time.
Yeah.
Which was definitely a
have-
surprise.
copies of like old spray records used.
I'm sure Tom does.
Yeah.
Like from how long ago?
From the beginning.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't
Dig
know
into the
about that.
archives and
The
the
very,
mean, that
very
was-
first
I
spray.
I just wonder what they look like compared to what we do.
It probably
today,
had two things in it: water and one thing that covered
glutathione.
everything. Yeah.
right? No, I just like some people have this mindset like we're babying our trees and our crops and we're making them not naturally fight diseases. And I don't know that there's any truth to that. That's why I asked that question is
Well, if you see someone let go of an orchard, it doesn't last very long.
no, it doesn't. No. And I mean, you got to spray them.
No, you gotta keep a healthy tree, right?
Yep, for sure.
And that's the other challenge with the organics is that the trees just aren't healthy.
Yeah.
They're not getting fed. They're not
Yeah.
getting their nutrients.
Yep.
We also haven't, when we started the organic program, all of the orchards we've chosen are old trees, junk to start with. Do you think because we've been talking about potentially starting to rotate some new ground in, and if we target something that's a little bit younger, like if we do 15s at the Cox farm to keep all the organics in kind of one area, it'd kind of be interesting to see if it changes that much. But you can definitely tell that the vigors down, they don't grow as much. Like we don't
think
even
that-
hedge the organic orchards anymore.
I
'cause
think
they
a
just don't
10-year
grow that
orchard.
much.
Right.
I think a 10-year orchard's too young to start the conversion to organic.
We did Hemming 15 though.
Yeah, because it was a
It's
3-acre
a long
block,
start,
and
yeah.
we weren't going to drive a different straight truck out there to spray
I
that
haven't looked
4-acre
at it though.
block. So
I haven't looked at it to see if it kind of looks any different.
I think there's a lot of good reasons to wait till you're at least probably around 20 years old before you convert. Get some good production, get some good production records. Get the tree more up to a little bit bigger size because they basically just do not grow.
Yeah.
Once we convert into organic.
Yeah.
So you get. I think we need to be looking at something like a 20-year-old tree. The Kenny Middle Farm, I think, is probably a prime one.
I don't like that. It's a great orchard, dude. That's $1 million orchard here.
You don't think the Cox 15s is a good orchard?
Yeah, those are good. Oh, they're all good farms.
They're
I
all
wouldn't
good
wanna waste
orchards.
them.
No, some of the stuff that we converted was we got into a mass replanting program in 30 years ago, and there was some corners cut and prep in the ground. So some of the stuff that we converted was some of that last stuff that was in this mad push to replant. And there's just the orchards are rough, the under the trees not smooth, and so that makes managing our weeds that much harder when we got just.
Yeah.
So we have additional challenges that we wouldn't on the next go around, and Tom has learned a ton and done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Learning and educating himself and doing trials, and I think Tom runs 3 or 4 different trial blocks almost every single year, testing some of the new chemicals and new biologicals. I shouldn't say they're not chemicals, right? 'Cause
Right.
they're organic.
Oh, he definitely
You're right.
does do a lot of stuff though.
What's the average lifespan of a cherry tree?
I wouldn't want to keep in this market. I wouldn't keep anything past 30. That's for sure. But it just depends on your trunks and your tree count. So
Take care of your trees.
Right?
We'll take care of you.
you got half your trees are gone. Your
Not much
your
sense.
production in that orchard's
Right.
pretty rough, right? So,
Yep.
but we have taken care of trees as far as 35. I think we had some 37-year-olds at times, but we were down to like 50% of the trees, and we were just waiting for some new production to come in before we took out more
Took it out.
trees. Yeah. But I think downstate's a little bit shorter. The trees grow a little bit bigger, get more breakage. The longer growing season, I think the trees we got 25-year-old stuff that's probably ready to come out down there.
Yeah, what did we say? We had we have 2 more years on a couple farms, then we're going to start.
Yeah.
And you start finding some more ground down there.
Just about every grower down there, Avis straps their trees together because they get so long and they grow so big that they tie them together so they don't split down.
Gotcha.
It's funny looking because you have 4 branches going up and then they just
And
webs
a
into
lot of
the
the growers
trees.
down there don't do central leader pruning techniques like we do. That's part of it. So, but yeah, we lose trees every single year when we have big crops. They just break themselves down. They crop so hard.
Why the difference in the pruning style?
I don't know why guys do that. When we went down there and Tony started pruning our technique, there was a lot of growers like, what's this guy doing? I don't know. I'm sure Tony's got stories talking to people about why we prune the way we prune versus how a lot of the guys down there prune. I don't know. They want more. I'm assuming they think they get more light in the middle of the tree without the central leader there. But
Okay.
you have all these low crotches
So much
going
more weight,
on 45-degree angles, and the tree just splits in half, and you have crap on it.
Yeah.
If there's one thing, I think it was what is Jason on the board of? The Horticulture Society, Benzie?
In Benzie, yeah.
Yeah, they had a pruning kind of workshop out there one year, and they had like however many people. They had 5 people that were going to show people how to prune, right? So they had all these demonstrators. And everyone said, "Well, this is how we do it on our farm." This guy said, "This is how we're going to do it." And like someone will be pruning, and the guy in the crowd's like, "You guys are killing me. This is how you do it." And then he's like, "Give me the snips," and went up there and started pruning the trees. And it was funny because we got to the lunch, and Jason says, "Well, did you learn anything about pruning apples?" This is like, I don't know, 2022, so like we didn't prune a tree yet. And I was like, "Jason, I learned that everyone prunes their trees differently. And you're always doing it wrong depending on who's looking at your orchard."
Exactly.
But that's funny that people have a similar situation in cherries.
Well, yeah, especially in the high density stuff. There's
A million ways.
everybody has their own pruning technique.
Yeah.
Well, there's different spacings and different techniques, whether you're doing 2 system leaders or whatever. So I have learned that doing ours, though, because how we're pruning, we probably should have been doing 3 foot the whole time, just from like the size of the Jonna Golds, and now they're going into the Honeycrisp. Definitely the Jonna Golds are a little bit bigger, but I think we should have been doing 3 foot in between probably the whole time, because the way we're pruning the Jonna Golds is more space. I think it's going to be more permanent limbs compared to constant new limbs coming out and pruning them back, and because they say the younger limb grows a better apple than an older limb, supposedly.
Makes
So-
sense.
So apples is going to be fun. Got to figure out how to get rid of those. New venture for us.
Yep.
1 crop in on our own stuff. Zach's a seasoned apple grower.
Yeah. Welcome
Yep.
to the fun.
The
Welcome to
struggle.
the party, right?
Yeah.
What
Nice
advice do you
orchard
have
up
for
there,
us?
though.
What advice
Yeah,
do I
what
have?
advice do you have for a new apple grower? Don't do
Find
it.
a spot to get rid of them.
Find a home.
Yeah.
Find a home.
I would say that advice would be well given to do before you plant your tree.
Before you plant. Yeah.
Hey, I have 500 boxes.
Yeah.
Doing a little different. So hopefully we got the right varieties that we can move.
I feel like that always changes, though. It's like you can plant something years ago and
Right.
hope it sticks when you finally get a crop out of it, or that people want it. Hopefully Auburn didn't lead us astray. I thought Auburn was going to stop by. She didn't want to come by, huh?
Guess not. No.
She might have been out there knocking on the door.
Oh yeah, it's locked.
No guests.
No guests.
Did you guys turn the on-air sign on?
Nope, I
Nope.
forgot.
There's a crowd outside.
I'm sure they probably would have texted us.
Probably. Wow. Anything else? You haven't shared much besides what questions we're asking. You want to ask anybody
I
any
feel like I've
questions?
been talking this entire time.
That's the point, though.
It's a lot. I think I've been doing a lot of
Killing it.
sharing.
Bruce
He's been doing
killing
great.
it.
This is
Yeah.
great information that I think a lot of great questions that people are wondering out there.
I didn't even get to my notes of all the stories to tell about you.
Do you want to share one? I'll open the door up for you.
Just
Share
one?
Well, we'll see how bad it is, and I might let you share another one.
Oh, what one do I want to share?
It's a long list. plenty to choose from.
How about the?
Yeah, how long have
How
you
did
known
you
Taylor
tell?
first?
How did you learn to drive a manual transmission vehicle?
I was just talking.
What was that experience like for you?
So one of the guys, it was actually Randy.
Merchant.
Yep.
My brother.
Yes. He his truck had a new transmission done in or something, and Bruce said, drop this truck off at Randy's, and then he's got a vehicle there, you can bring that back. Didn't say what it was. So I pull into his driveway and I start calling Bruce. I said, dude, what are you talking about? I said, that's the S10. That's stick shift. I don't want to drive that. And he goes, what? I can't hear you. You had to have a bag of chips or something? And he goes, what? You're breaking up. I think I stalled it out 5 times in Randy's driveway.
Oh man.
I think I said there's a picture on the gear shifter that tells you
tells you
what
what
to
to
put it in, and good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fine. After a couple stalls in the driveway, went around the block a couple times. Last week I told a story about the first time I was driving the 990 at Bussa, and I didn't know how to stop the tractor. I was just cramming my foot on the brakes. I came to the top of the hill, like, hey, how do I stop this thing? Just,
Do you remember that too? Yeah.
yeah. Zach was blown away. That's what we talked about too, is we were talking about the wide row, narrow row. What was the motivation behind that?
Rollouts.
You always had room, more space on one side.
We've always run 2 rollouts with 1 shaker, so the rollouts would be in the wide row. Or I'm sorry, the shaker would be in the wide row. The rollouts would be in the narrow rows.
That makes sense.
It makes sense.
So the shaker, so it gives the shaker guy, he'd go to one tree, shake it, back up, kind of like a one man, right? Go to it, shake it, back up, go to the other side.
Yep.
Interesting, because I didn't know. I'm pre-rollout or I'm post-rollout.
Yeah.
Rollout.
I've pulled tarps for 3 seasons.
I did not do that.
Me neither.
I was
Cal
fortunate.
Nagy.
I was just wrenching on stuff. I didn't have to pull tarps.
Old
Came in
Nagy.
basically in the co days.
I feel like Nagy Orchards was one of the last ones to move away from the rollout system. That was
Got hot.
oh, she shut down.
Off camera, must be time to go home.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You missed the rollout days.
Yeah,
It was fun.
I rolled right into
Tom used to drive
what were the
a
pan,
990.
the pan ones.
Tom would drive a 990 pulling a rollout all the way from Keyway and all the way through Traverse City to
That's what he said.
yeah, out into
Oh,
like
he
the
did say
to,
that
like the
story.
Empire area.
Oh my gosh.
I'd love listening to Tom tell stories about the past. Uphill both ways, closed the bar down, still made it to work at 5. Just an absolute animal back in the day.
I think that's probably still why Tom can't hardly sit straight because he was turning sideways
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time, pushing the clutch in, looking back at the rollout for years.
I love when he says, "You guys don't need anyone to drive the tractor while you're picking rocks." Tony and I, we should just put it in gear and just walk up next to it, straighten the wheel out, and just throw the rocks in ourselves. He's got some,
Back in the day.
yeah. Where it
There's
wasn't
a lot
dangerous
of
to
those
walk in
back
front
in the
of a
day
moving tractor.
stories.
Yep. A lot of great stuff to share. That's why I talked to Norman, your dad, and I think we're gonna have him in here one day to get some cool stories and kind of hear how they went from dairy farming to.
Those two have a lot of stories.
Your dad said, "I kind of clam up in front of a mic."
Be interesting how he does with the headset.
Interesting.
If he can stand the headset on his head, he'll be good because then he can be able to hear.
Yeah, hear himself.
Yeah.
No, I mean they've done so much, and there's so many cool stories. I think it'd be awesome to have them in to share that stuff because
No, the old dairy days was fun. I used to go up when Dad would take us to work all the time because no daycare, on the weekends anyways. So you go with Dad and sit in his old 1985 regular cab pickup truck. He'd just tell us, I'm gonna go inside for a little bit. We'd be sitting in the truck for hours, just regular cab truck sitting there. You go to the dairy farm, he'd entertain me by bringing me out a bag of chocolate milk. So that's how they used to package it, was in plastic bags. So he'd bring me a bag of chocolate milk, like a half a gallon of chocolate milk, and I remember putting it up on the dash of the truck and stabbing it with a straw and sitting there drinking a bag of chocolate milk while Dad's in there and working at the dairy.
That's awesome.
What do you guys think? Think we should get talent signed up for the 40 under 40?
Oh boy, the fruit grower.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we should sign them up.
Yeah. I think so.
You got to be nominated.
How do we
Are
nominate
you a prior member? Sign him up too.
Yeah, I'm not under 40 anymore.
It's too late. It's too late, dude.
I appreciate that.
You hate to see it, guys. You hate to see it.
How many bush lattes have you
My
had?
bad. 1.5.
Oh.
1.5. Wow. So what do you think? Did you have a good time today?
Yeah, it's great.
Having a good time? A blast?
Appreciate
Yeah.
being invited.
Learned a lot. This was awesome.
I think we're going to have you on again. This was too much fun. I mean, we're still having fun.
Might have to work on the Friday night thing though.
Yeah.
I know, like, I tell everybody, like, I don't want meetings on Friday. Like, why?
Right.
especially
Well, you don't have to worry about
Well,
going to
this
the
isn't
UP
a
to
meeting.
snowmobile. So
Yeah.
we should be here on Friday. So
I think
Dorrance was snowmobiling. He was sending me pictures today. He was up riding
way.
today. Yeah.
Was he really?
He went out for a ride. Yeah. I don't know how far he was got, but he was bragging about how great it was.
oh my god, because he's the only one in their
Oh yeah.
mind to be out there in the sled.
Oh, I'm sure there's nobody up there. So I sent him a picture driving tractor, tilling the field.
Some of us have to work.
And he
or-
goes, "Oh, wow, is it dry enough yet?" So I think I made him feel guilty.
I heard he was going to a meeting. That's what I heard.
Yeah, no, he was up there riding snowmobiles.
a meeting with the Mackinac Bridge. Yeah, that's too funny.
I think he went up there to get his sleds and bring them back, and decided to go for a
He was
ride.
supposed to be back today.
He might be on his way. I don't know.
Imagine getting him on here.
Yeah.
Be good. Let's get Grandpa John.
I asked Zach that.
Yeah, I think he'd have a hard time.
Yeah,
Zach says I'm still in the fridge. That is
dude.
how
Once a picture
Yeah,
goes
Grandma
up at Grandma
Pat's,
Pat's house,
it
dude, it
doesn't
never
come
comes
down.
down.
it comes down.
There's at least 3 or 4 ex-wives on the wall in there too. not of mine.
Right.
Mine is up there, but I think everyone's ex-wife is on the wall up there.
A lot
Nothing
of
comes
history.
out.
A lot of history on the wall.
Nothing comes off the wall.
flashback. Yeah, you always got to watch out who you take pictures with.
Yeah, it's like similar to at the cabin. And once there's pictures up in the cabin,
Yep.
Yeah,
they don't come down.
very true. You always got to be careful who you take pictures with. I got a couple wedding photos that
Yeah, I
we
ruined that.
we
didn't I?
can't put up.
Oh, boy.
Couple wedding pictures that don't go up anymore. We need to there's someone with some really good Photoshop.
Sorry about that. You gotta learn to put certain people at the ends of pictures, I guess.
That's right. Gotta be careful about that. Put them on the far side. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Anything else you want to cover tonight?
I know. What else? What else we got for Bruce?
Save it for the next time. I'll come back.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was good.
This was great.
Maybe we'll
I'll
have
start. I'll
more
just keep
notes next time.
sprinkling. I'll just keep sprinkling out my talent stories.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there's plenty. There's plenty. I break a lot of stuff. Well, Zach, you want to share your story about what I was texting you about last night?
Oh yeah, you couldn't
couldn't-
figure out how to put Bruce's microphone together.
There was a little something on the end. It wouldn't connect to this mic stand, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" But it had this piece that I had to unscrew. But it was on there. I couldn't get it off hand tight. And Zach's like, "Well, you just put a pair of pliers on it." I was like, "Okay," and that popped right off. And I was like, "Shit." Zach says, "What kind of guys is Bruce hiring?"
Yes.
You should see this kid hook up a PTO shaft.
Oh,
You want to see someone
gets the
melt
best of
down?
them.
We've watched it.
It gets the best of them.
No, I've been good on camera. I haven't
Melts,
messed the one up on
absolutely melts down.
camera. Yeah, it's
Hate to
pretty
see
bad.
it.
It takes about 3 tries, and I freak out. I have very short-tempered, that's for sure. Very short-tempered.
Oh, you're such a good dad. I'll never figure that out.
Only in public. I have my moments. That is
We
for
all
sure.
do. We all do.
They test the patience. All right, well, this has been a success. Episode 2 in the books.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Yep.
So this is
Thanks for coming, Bruce.
yeah, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having me. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. You guys can find this. I think it's only on Spotify, and the video will be out on YouTube on the Pomes and Stones channel later. Thanks everybody for coming in again. This is great.
Thank you, man.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
Bruce on again. He's got a lot of great information and insights that most people don't get to hear about. So hopefully he shined a positive light for any growers out there listening to keep their trees in the ground. We're planting trees, so you should too.
Looking forward to a full 2025 crop.
Yep.
You know it. All right, we'll catch you guys next time on the Specialty Cropcast on Pomes and Stones.